Joining me now to discuss, Marc Lotter, America First Policy Institute Chief Communications Officer, former Special Assistant to President Trump. Marc, really great to see you. One thing that
You too.
the New York Times is pointing out is that the areas where the polling was wrong are places like North Carolina, Ohio, and Wisconsin back in 2020. And so the Senate campaign, the Republican or the Democrats holding the Senate, depends partly on their strength in those very states where polls were exaggerated or exaggerated Democrat support 2 years ago. So maybe this admission, though, suggests again that just polling is broken, to quote James Freeman at the Journal.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we saw the same thing in 2016 and in 2020, and I don't think the pollsters have tried to figure out the level of intensity, especially on the right. They have underestimated areas where the Trump campaign overperformed, and so the polls got it wrong. And in some cases, like in Wisconsin, I believe they had us losing Wisconsin, by 7-8 percentage points, and it was like less than, 10,000, 11,000 votes?
That's right. They showed Biden running comfortably ahead, and he won it by less than 1 percentage point. In Ohio, Trump won, not a tight race. And in North Carolina, Biden had a small lead, but again, he lost to President Trump. On that note, James Freeman writes this. I mentioned his column. It's called, "Is Political Polling Still Broken?" He said, what would we do without the community of polling experts? It seems possible that news consumers may ignore the experts' inaccurate guesswork in favor of the precision offered by gamblers. But in the article in the Times, it says most pollsters haven't even made significant methodological changes since the last election. So they're just ready to make the same mistake again.
Well, and I also think that the left and the mainstream media tries to use this to their advantage. If they can make it seem like they have the momentum or that they're going to carry a state by a big number, you are hoping to depress or suppress, right, to use their word, conservative votes. So they're using these as suppression polls to try to get people to not come out thinking, well, it's a pre-gone conclusion, so my vote doesn't matter. What we have to do on the right is to make sure that we make sure everybody gets out and then bring a friend, because friends don't let friends vote alone. So let's bring out some more people to vote.
Well, what you're hearing from the left, too, is that the sole issue of abortion is going to cause this wave of suburban women to come out and vote. And I want you to listen to this MSNBC contributor claiming that, indeed, abortion is #1 concern among voters. Listen.
Even if you ask a voter right now about health care or about the state of democracy, abortion comes up 90% of the time. And I think that to say it's not an issue, I think is very interesting to hear, because just as someone who's out there reporting, abortion is absolutely an issue, along with inflation.
There was a man on the panel, Gorman, who is on on Fox frequently, and then he was accused of mansplaining to these women when he was only talking about what actual polls say about the top voter issues. Among them, the top 5 issues.
Close.
No, this is just according to Pew. This is from early August. The economy, #1. Gun policies, #2. Crime, health care, and voting policies. And in the actual NBC polling, they were sitting on NBC talking on that network. The #1 issue was the threat to democracy. And then the second issue, the cost of living, which is inflation, jobs in the economy, immigration, and the situation at the border. Abortion is below climate change and guns, according to the NBC polls from later in August.
Right. And when you see these rankings, too, it's really not even fair. Like, I saw some new polling come out this morning at the America First Policy Institute that the economy is 5 times more important than people who rank abortion being the #1 issue. So the economy, energy is 1, 2, and 3. It is not, in a neck and neck tie with any other issue. I think the biggest poll is I've seen some surveys say people are going to be cutting back on their holiday spending this year. That's what they're going to go to the polls and vote on, how they feel about the economy.
And that was Matt Gorman, I think, who was on that panel. with Yamiche Alcindor, and I think Claire McCaskill was there as well. That was all over Twitter today about how he is how dare him talk about abortion when he's talking about actual polling on issues. That being said, this is the message from Joe Biden, the Republican MAGA threat to democracy. Well, if the MAGA Republicans are such a threat, why are the Democrats funding all of these MAGA candidates, if you will, in these primaries? There's a New Hampshire primary tomorrow. So if these MAGA Republicans are such a grave danger to the republic and democracy, why are the Democrats funneling money to them? And how could that possibly work, Mark?
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to pick their opponent that they want to run against. And I guess the thing I would tell you is, how'd that work out for you in 2016? Because all of the political pundits thought, oh, Donald Trump would be the easiest candidate to run because he's not a politician or whatever. Didn't work out for you very well. And so just let the voters decide. Let the voters of their party decide who represents them, and then win on a battle of ideas. But they can't do that because they have nothing to run on. So what they're going to try to do is make you afraid of this MAGA threat. Well, guess what? You know what? We're not the ones out there who call the Supreme Court illegitimate because we disagree with them. That's a threat to democracy.
Marc Lotter, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here always.